All right, today we are jumping into two really dramatic back-to-back stories from the book of Genesis. It's a tale of judgment, a tale of deception, and as you'll see, two very different tests that get to the heart of what it means to be righteous. So our story kicks off with this chilling demand. Picture this. It's late evening in the city of Sodom, and a couple of visitors have just arrived at someone's house. Now, when the text says the men of the city wanted to know them, we're talking about something far more sinister than an introduction. It's a euphemism for a violent assault. The entire city shows up with this one goal in mind. And what happens next? Well, it's a test. Not just for one man, but for everybody. This first story is really framed as a city on trial. And the test? It's all about hospitality, which, you have to remember, was an absolutely sacred duty in the ancient world. So when two divine messengers, who look just like regular guys, show up in Sodom, only one person even bothers to help. And that one person is a man named Lot. He's at the city gate, he sees these strangers, and he immediately insists, "No, you've got to come stay with me. You'll be safe at my house." This is his first move, and it's a righteous one, in a city that is right on the edge of judgment. But that moment of peace, it lasts for about 5 minutes. Suddenly, Lot's house is surrounded, and the scripture is really specific here. It says it was all the people from every quarter, both old and young. This wasn't just a few troublemakers. This was the city of Sodom showing its true ugly colors. And this is where things get really, really disturbing. The mob demands the visitors, and Lot, in a moment of sheer desperation, makes this terrible, horrifying offer. He actually suggests giving them his own daughters instead. It's a shocking moment that just shows you how incredibly high the stakes had become. Just as the mob is about to break the door down, the visitors finally show their hand. They are not ordinary men. They pull Lot back inside to safety, and then, bam, they strike the entire mob with blindness. Just like that. The men are left fumbling around, unable to even find the door. The test of hospitality is officially over, and the city has failed spectacularly. So, with the city's failure sealed, judgment is coming. The story pivots now. It's no longer about the city's hospitality, it's about Lot's personal obedience. The instructions for how to survive are about to be laid out, and they are urgent. The angels give Lot's family 4 crystal-clear commands. There's no gray area here, no room to negotiate. These are the rules. You follow them, you live. You break them, well, you get consumed. It's that simple. But here's the thing. Even with imminent death and destruction literally on his heels, Lot hesitates. He lingers. It's so bad the angels have to physically grab him and his family by the hand and drag them out of the city. It's this powerful reminder that even the so-called righteous survivor here is deeply flawed. And then it happens. Fire and brimstone rain down from the sky. Sodom, Gomorrah, the entire plain, it's all completely destroyed. The text says the smoke rose up like smoke from a furnace, a total, fiery, definitive end. But in the middle of all that chaos, while they're running for their lives, one of those 4 simple rules gets broken. A single, tragic act of disobedience. Lot's wife looks back. And the consequence is immediate. She becomes a pillar of salt. It's this famous, haunting image, a permanent statue showing the price of disobedience, of longing for a past that God was in the process of destroying. The test of obedience has just claimed its first victim. But believe it or not, the story doesn't end there. In fact, the aftermath of all this destruction presents us with a really strange and frankly disturbing paradox. It kind of forces you to ask what it truly means to be a survivor. So Lot and his daughters are hiding out in a cave, and they genuinely believe they are the last 3 people on Earth. And out of this fear and isolation, they come up with a desperate plan. These are their own words, their rationale for an act that is going to echo for generations. And from this incredibly troubling event, 2 sons are born, Moab and Ben-Ami, and they become the fathers of 2 entire nations, the Moabites and the Ammonites. If you know the rest of the story, you know these 2 groups become long-standing rivals of Israel. So the legacy of Sodom? Yeah, it's complicated. Okay, so right after all that fire and brimstone and family drama, the
the story suddenly pivots. It shifts to Abraham, who is Lot's uncle, and we are immediately thrown into a completely different kind of test. This one isn't about the wickedness of a city, it's about the fear and deception of a single chosen man.
And that's really the central question here. What happens when the hero, the patriarch, the man God has chosen, is the one who creates the crisis, all by himself?
So here's the setup. Abraham shows up in a new place called Gerar. He gets scared that the king, Abimelech, will kill him to take his wife Sarah. So he lies. He tells everyone she's his sister. Naturally, the king believes him and takes Sarah into his household. The test is now underway, but this time, the crisis was started by the prophet himself.
Now, unlike Sodom, this crisis doesn't end in fire. In fact, judgment is completely averted. And it's resolved not with destruction, but with a dream, a divine warning, and direct communication. It's a course correction, not a cataclysm. God comes to King Abimelech in a dream, but it's a warning, not just a condemnation. And what's so fascinating is Abimelech's response. He pleads his case. He says, I did this with integrity, with innocent hands. And God agrees with him. God acknowledges that the king is, in fact, innocent in this. Just look at this contrast. It's stunning. You have Abimelech, the foreign king, who God himself says acted with integrity. And then you have Abraham, the prophet, who admits he acted out of fear because he just assumed there was no morality in this place. The expected roles of sinner and saint are totally flipped. The resolution here is just remarkable. Abimelech confronts Abraham, the truth comes out, and instead of punishment, there's restoration. The king gives Abraham gifts, Sarah is returned, and then Abraham prays for the king's household to be healed. The whole mess is averted through honesty and reconciliation. And that leaves us with this final, really challenging thought. On the one hand, you have a story of collective sin met with fiery destruction. And on the other, you have a story of an individual's lie that's resolved with grace. Together, these two tales force us to ask a tough question. In a world of flawed heroes and divine judgment, what does righteousness truly look like?